All right, and we're live. We're live here with Creature Comforts. We've got a three-way chat today. We got some brewery in the background, but we're here with Creature Comforts, one of my favorite breweries, out of the South for sure, and out of Athens, Georgia. How's it going, guys?
Good. Thanks for having us.
So as the thing works, when somebody speaks, the screen switches. So I guess if we can start from the two-man screen, let's do some introductions, and then we'll work over to the one-man screen, and then we'll start at the interview.
Cool. My name is David Stein. I am the head brewer and co-founder of Creature Comforts.
Hi, I'm Adam Beecham. I'm one of the co-founders and the brewmaster at Creature Comforts.
And hi, I'm Blake Tyers. I'm the wood cellar and specialty brand manager at Creature Comforts.
Beautiful. Now, I guess Creature Comforts been around, I think, since 2014, right?
Yeah, that's right. We're about to celebrate our 2-year anniversary next Saturday.
Is there a big party planned, or is it going to be kind of low-key?
We've got a good event going on at the brewery. We got a bunch of special beers, live music, good food. It'll be a fun event for sure.
Cool. Now, I know you guys have a lot of history in brewing before you started Creature Comforts. And then I guess, who was it that was home brewing as Creature Comforts?
That was me, David here. Yeah.
Cool. Where'd you brew before?
Well, as you said, I was home brewing for a good while, and I started kind of sampling my home brew out around Atlanta and calling it Creature Comforts. And that's kind of where it all kind of really started, and then I was able to work as the head brewer at Twain's, which is a brew pub in Decatur. I was working there for about a year before starting up Creature Comforts.
What's the kind of meaning behind the name Creature Comforts? It's a cool name and it sounds really cool. It's like kind of rolls off your tongue real easily, but is there any meaning behind it?
It's got kind of a deeper meaning where it kind of came from for me. I mean, I guess the first part of it, I had a good friend who did these weird illustrations of these kind of made-up creatures. You'll see they're actually on some of our bottles. Stars, Emergence, Bread-O-Matic, and I always just said if I ever started a brewery one day, I want to use his creatures on the labels. So that's where the creature part kind of came from, and then obviously beer is a creature comfort, so. Really just kind of the name kind of popped out one day, and I just went with it.
Very cool. So full circle there on the name. That's pretty cool. What kinds of beers were you brewing when you were starting to go around the city and give people to brew as Creature Comforts? I mean, because a huge part of a brewery is the marketing aspect, the kind of the hype that is driven behind the opening a lot of times nowadays, as we have more breweries open. Were they beers like the ones you guys are drinking right now and I'm drinking right now? Is that one of the originals, maybe? Tropicalia?
Tropicalia is actually a beer that I started brewing it at Twain's, but since then, Adam and I and Blake, we really kind of took it further and developed the recipe over a couple years, and it's a much different and better beer now than it was back then. But as a home brewer, I focused a lot on hoppy beers and IPAs, and really never brewed the same beer twice. So it was a fun way for me to just experiment, and for the beer drinkers to be able to kind of learn with me. And I did some stouts as well, and a little bit of small barrel aging projects. Nothing too crazy. Kind of stuck with the hoppy stuff.
Adam, what about you? What were you doing before Creature Comforts?
I worked at Sweetwater here in Atlanta for about 7 years prior to this. I basically dropped out of grad school and started just like stacking cases at the end of the bottling line for a little while. Worked in in packaging for a little while, and moved into the cellar, and became a brewer after that. I worked in the lab for a little while, so I was there for a good while. Started sort of thinking about branching out. I'd collected some pretty good years of experience, and felt like I was confident enough to, if I found the right group, to go out and get something going. And I really wanted to stay in Georgia, which was somewhat of a challenge. A lot of those years when I was ready to sort of go, there wasn't anything going on for me to do. Not to say that I wasn't having a good time working in Sweetwater. It was a good experience. There are a lot of great people that work there. I learned a lot from. But the right thing came along finally, and everything kind of started falling into place, and we got this thing together.
I think some of our local, well, somewhat local guys, Devin and Justin from Seventh Sun, brewed at Sweetwater for a while. Were you there when they were there?
Yeah, they're great friends of mine. I've known them since, well, Devin was working there a little bit before me. Justin always mentions me as a mentor, and taught me as much as I've taught him, I think. But different stuff down there at Seventh Son, and actually, beer, I don't know, we'll drink beer later, but he kind of taught us how to do kettle sour beers because he's been doing them for a lot longer. But totally love what those guys are doing. Excited for their expansion.
Very cool. You guys have an expand. Well, actually, before we go into that, Blake.
Yes.
We had some technical difficulties with Blake, so I was like, oh no, we're not going to get him on, but he's here, and you can hear him, so that's good.
Yeah, so I have a different background than these guys. I actually was just a home brewer before working at Creature Comforts. I used to be a photographer on film and television sets, and so came from working in the production entertainment industry, and then was brewing home beers in Atlanta, our home brews, and then I entered, I was like a gypsy home brewer. I always forget that. So I was brewing at different friends' houses that had better brewing systems than I had. So I would go brew at their house and then take the wort home and ferment it. So I went and brewed at a friend's house a few times that I'd met in college, and then turns out he was good friends with David. So after brewing with him for a little bit, he said, I got a buddy Dave. He's opened up a brewery, and he's going to need a brewer. And so then we got connected, and I just started sharing my beers with Adam and David. And then a few years later, here we are, Creature Comforts.
Very cool. How long does it take? How long did it take you guys to get open once you started the business planning to actually opening your doors? And I guess is it a real lengthy process in Georgia as well? I mean, or is it is it tied up?
Yeah, it's a huge pain in the ass. I'm sure we'll get into some of the legal, that we have to deal with here.
I think people down here are taking like a year and a half, 2 years. So I guess technically you guys were open in 2014, but I mean, how long was Creature Comforts like a real, business idea up and coming?
It took like 3 years,
we incorporated in 2011, I believe.
Yeah.
And Dave had the idea for Creature Comfort probably
2010.
Yeah.
So, like 3 to 4 years for sure. It's going to be difficult for anybody in the country because you have to go through the licensing process federally. We have our own. Everyone's got to raise money, and that takes a good bit of time and secure a location. Georgia has Georgia has more barriers of entry because you kind of have to start at a certain size. You can't self-distribute at all, so you can't really just open up a nano brewery or a very small brewery and plan on making money. So you kind of have to. We started off with a 3-barrel brew house, and I think we produced. Our first year we produced 2,000 barrels. So you just kind of have to raise over $1 million, and it's just a bigger operation right out of the gates.
Is there any reason you guys picked Athens as a city to open up in? Is it one of your home city, or is it because Terrapin's down in Athens also, I think, right?
Yeah, exactly. Terrapin's been around here for a while. Adam and I, and Blake, we all went to UGA.
Okay.
So, it was a pretty natural for us. went to UGA, and then we all moved back to Atlanta. And we were living in Atlanta right before we started the brewery here. And Athens is a small town. It's kind of more our speed, and it's a great community, and it needs more breweries. Where Atlanta's growing. It's got a good bit of breweries there. And we also had a great location, great opportunity to be in downtown Athens and an amazing building. So just kind of lucked out on a lot of levels and couldn't be happy. Yeah.
Is it helpful? Is it helpful to have someone that I guess I can imagine for the brewers that have opened up in Tampa and St. Pete's and Cigar City's opened up, it's been helpful to have kind of that big brewery there. And Terrapin's a pretty damn big brewery. Has it been helpful to have someone like that in the same city? I mean, maybe it draws people into the city somewhat.
Yeah, it's well, one thing. Whenever we, part or reading it or like there's an adapter that so Justin and Devin, to bring them back, they're in town. We brewed our first collaboration. We didn't have this adapter that we needed to brew that. So we were able to go to Terrapin, and they let us borrow it for the day. And we were incredible neighbors in that way. We borrowed back from them. Same way you borrow like a couple of sugar from whatever. And they're they paved the way in Athens. They created beer culture in Athens. Before that, there was like and there's a small brew pub, but really, definitely kind of established what craft beer. We have to be different than them because we're in the city. But we really like, it crosses over with them sometimes. Both our anniversaries. Our history, our sort of budding history, I guess. But no, it's been great having them for sure.
Are you guys having some technical issues?
I think there's a band playing at the brewery, and Blake should
That's what it is.
In between comments.
All right.
I'm sorry. I'm back in our barrel room, which is supposed to be the quietest area, but yeah, it's making your audio go in and out a little bit.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll try to cover up the microphone.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
So it was 2,000 barrels your first year. I guess we'll get back to that. It's 2,000 barrels your first year. How quickly have you been able to grow since 2014? I mean, it's only been coming up on 2 years now, but has it been an exponential kind of growth? I mean, people have really taken to you guys around the country, and I know that from things I've read, it's kind of become almost impossible to find your beer around town. I've read things like your beer comes in and out of the bar in an hour.
I mean, we're going really fast. That's never the goal. Like, we're not growing for the sake of growth. What we want is to be able to sustainably grow. Quality. I mean, sort of like I'm in the room now. This is better. We did 10,000 in year 2. We're gonna hope for 20,000 in year 3.
Wow, that's
pretty big growth. It takes a lot. Everything is in like this constant state of change. Like there's constantly change. So we have contractors in all the time. We're building new systems and putting new tanks online, and it's hiring new people is probably one of the biggest challenge. Like making sure that we have quality individuals that are going to carry our brand and our quality of the product all the way through. And I feel like we've been able to do a pretty good job. We're investing a ton of money into quality. We have a fully functioning lab. We have a lab manager. We've got a lot of equipment to give us the readings that we need to make sure that we're keeping our quality high. So it's it is fast growth. We're gonna sort of max out at our facility at about 28,000 barrels by the end of next year. So, kind of planning next steps, and it's been an ever-changing and challenging ride, I guess.
That's amazing. I mean, congratulations to that. That's incredible. And I had this. I was up in Georgia, maybe early 2015. I don't know. I had this beer up in Georgia, and having it today. I mean, from what I remember, it's it has improved, I think, a little bit. But it's just I mean, it's just a really phenomenally refreshing beer. And so I kind of want to take this time to talk about Tropicalia a little bit before I drink all the way through it. But it's an IPA. I guess, what are the hops you guys use? Like some of the same boring questions I'm sure you've heard a million times, but if we can talk about the beer a little bit and maybe some of the inspiration behind it, and the name, that'd be great.
Yeah, so the name Tropicalia really, I mean, it's also kind of two-part, and the hops that we use in here, you're asking, is citrus, centennial, and galaxy. You get a lot of tropical fruit and citrus character from those hops. We do a heavy dry hop, so it's a very aromatic beer. Even if you drink it out of the can, I mean, you crack it open and you get a strong whiff of passion fruit and mango and grapefruit. So that was part of the name, and I'm also a big fan of Tropicalia music, which is from Brazil in the late '60s. There's a band Os Mutantes and just some really kind of weird Latin psychedelic music, and it just kind of came together with the name. And as far as the beer goes itself, we were really just going for something that is a little bit lighter on the bitterness, more focused on flavor and aroma. It's got good malt back.
Yeah.
It's just something that is really refreshing, lower in alcohol. It's about 6.5%, so that's on the lower side for IPA.
Yeah, and that's what I love about it. You hit it right on the head. Is that it's light, it's refreshing, but it's still got tons of flavor, and the bitterness just kind of lightly coats your tongue. So some of these IPAs that you drink that are just like astringently bitter. It's just a really nice. It's a balancing bitterness, which is awesome, and I can see why they fly off the shelves.
I mean, breweries all over use. They say that their beer is balanced. I think it's something that we all work for, but I think we really hit a very nice balance on this beer.
Now, I recently had a double IPA that you guys, I think put out like a week or two. I forget the name about it. It's a purple can.
Yeah, Cosmic Debris.
Yep, there it is. And that's another one, just really phenomenal. A lot of times I think, oftentimes, a lot of double IPAs can become way too focused on this, or they're way too malty. And again, I thought it was really nice and dry and really pungent. Like right when you open the can, you smell you get a really nice aroma from the hops. What's the reason behind Cosmic Debris on that? Is there, you guys come up with the names before you brew the beer, or is it like you brew the beer, you taste it, and you think, well, let's think of a name?
We usually. I don't know. A lot of times we're already working on the pilot batches, and the names kind of. Sometimes we already have a finished beer, and then we need to name it. So that really is the naming is a difficult thing, but that name was inspired from a Frank Zappa song, so Cosmic Debris, and I don't know. In some weird place in my mind, I like to think that hops are. Some sort of cosmic debris out in space. It doesn't make any sense. But
one can only hope that when we move to Mars, there's just hops everywhere. I hope so. I mean, they say it's in the future. So now, Blake's shirt, it says "Pretend over the top." It's a very familiar-looking shirt.
Yeah, we're definitely friends with Seven Sun folks.
Yeah, and that's so I guess you're responsible for these Brett beers that I've been having.
I kind of tend to take the lead, but just like with making Tropicalia and whatnot, the three of us tend to work on all the beers together. I've when I was home brewing, I was doing a good amount of mixed fermentation stuff. So I kind of that's where my head's always been, I think, as far as a lot of my favorite beers to drink involve those organisms. So I kind of naturally gravitated towards that as a professional brewer.
Cool. I know you were talking about, you guys kettle sour. So the Berliner I'm going to try a little bit, we'll talk about in a little bit, is kettle soured, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Are you guys doing any bugs in the house in the brewery yet, or is it I know some breweries are like, well, we don't have anything in barrels with a bunch of lacto or PDO in it because, you know.
Yeah, we've got all of these guys in the brewery going on. We generally leave. We have 2 stainless tanks that we dedicate towards mixed fermentation. The rest of our stainless tanks we don't put anything crazy in. And then we've got oak barrels that we work with as well. And then for Athena specifically, when we do that acidification in the kettle, we're using it started as a pure culture pitch of Athena, and then, of lactobacillus that we used a few different strains we got from labs, and since then we've just continually propagated and used the same recurring, I should say, inoculate, and then it's kind of found its own way and made itself kind of generate to the point where it's at now and living happy in the environment we put it in. So it's got its own dominant culture that's working in there.
Very cool. Do you guys, as a brewer that does both? Yeah. As a brewery that's producing a lot of clean beers, and now I've been seeing more and more of these, Brett mixed fermentation beers. Do you guys have a percentage split that that you guys are doing now? And the reason I'm asking is because, I mean, are you seeing that you're increasing in the percentage of mixed fermentation, or even like Brett beers that you're producing? Is the demand going crazy for it in Georgia? I mean, I know down here people are really wanting these sour beers. Is that happening in Georgia as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when we started filling barrels right away. It's sort of, I mean, we're so young. Some of it's starting to come out for the first time. I mean, I think the beer that just came out, Emergence, is one of our first wine barrel aged beers. We filled like 6 months after we opened or something like that, and it just came out because we really extended bottle conditioning. Like, that's a philosophy of ours that we're going to hold strong to, that we set a bottle down and it's usually for at least 4 to 6 months. So we feel like an additional fermentation in the bottle is something that is going to set us apart and just give us a lot of complexity. So yeah, David's got a bottle of Emergence right here, and I wish he had one. But the proudest beer, I think that all of us would agree, or at least in the top 2 or 3 that we've produced. And it was a lager first, mixed fermentation second, and it just has this beautiful complexity and this interesting like fruit funkiness, and the wine barrels were freshly emptied, so got a really nice wine character. We're doing it more and more. I would say we're filling more barrels. In fact, we filled some yesterday. We did a saison, like mixed fermentation saison. Out of those barrels came a beer that spent a full year in French oak. That was a bière de garde, actually. So it's sort of a unique, or not unique, but an old school interpretation of bière de garde, where if they stored it for a year in oak, it probably got a little funky back in the 1400s or whatever in Belgium. So yeah, more and more we're trying to devote more energy into it, and it's it's a part of our model for sure. We want to make those beers. Typically, when we're doing things like Emergence, it's like 2,000 bottles. Mm-hmm. Tropicalia, we're doing like 1,500 cases a week. So that's an idea. Like, we're pushing volume through the clean beers, but it's not a small amount of the funky stuff either, though. I mean, it's more than some of the micros in Florida. I mean, a lot more than some. Right. That's sort of where we're at. We're gonna, like I sort of alluded to earlier, we're gonna hit our capacity in a year or so, and we're gonna want to grow the business by doing more of this stuff. Okay. That's exciting for us, and actually Blake is going to be embarking on that, sort of heading up, like really growing that program. So something.
Cool. Blake, anything that you, hearing that, anything that you kind of think or foresee yourself kind of doing with that idea, growing it? Is there any kind of things that you want to do in that regard?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. First, we're just trying to figure out how to dedicate resources and find more space. I think that's what every brewery probably says when they want to do more things. To be able to get a more recurring process coming out with these beers, so they're not just like a 2-bottle-a-year kind of release deal. So to work on that, we're looking at devoting some more space into our warehouse area so we can fit additional barrels. I think probably in the next 6 to 8 months or so, maybe a little bit longer, we're going to try to add about another 150 barrels or so of fermentation space, and then also maybe some more dedicated stainless tanks that can go along with that. And then obviously we have to figure out where to put all those bottles that we love bottle conditioning, right, which you'd never plan for when when you're planning a traditional brewery, today's traditional brewery anyway. So that's been a challenge for sure, where we've had to basically trade space sometimes for bottles when the barrels have come out. And so we're trying to get it to where we can keep these barrels moving through the program pretty regularly so that we can have bottles in different space and the barrels keep going. And by virtue of mixing kind of shorter-term barrel projects with longer-term barrel projects, we can keep a diversity of things coming out. Right now, we've definitely erred on the long side with a lot of our projects. Submergence was in barrels for a year. This beer de garde that just came out was in barrels for about 16 months. We're about to release a stout called Existence that sat in bourbon barrels for 19 months. See the Stars was in barrels for 12 months. So this time, I think that's just really what it takes to make something that's beautiful. You get a lot more complexities and a lot more things coming along with that. But at the same time, we also are working on developing kind of interesting projects that may only be in the barrel for 4 to 6 months. Just like saisons and things like that, your table beers and whatnot that can kind of be more regular and therefore be priced more appropriately, I think, to the experience that beer demands. And hopefully we can have a range of bottles coming out that people can be enjoying. So how do you handle? We share the issue of intense heat, I'm sure. How do you handle temperature regulation in your guys' brewery when it comes to the oak fermentation you're doing? Yeah, that was something super important from day one. I was pretty adamant about it, and I think along with Dave and Adam, as long as anyone makes a compelling argument with valid reasons, we're all going to jump on board. So we have a barrel room that's currently 65 degrees year-round. We fluctuate the temperatures slightly with a few degrees depending on the season, just to get some more swelling and kind of change inside the wood. But we keep it humidity controlled and temperature controlled. And that's the holdout right now for getting additional barrels, is that we're going to build another enclosure in our warehouse area to be able to maintain that through. It's really, I think, paid off. People, when you kind of have more fluctuation in temperatures, there's more likely things can go wrong by limiting temperatures. And I hold in the highest regard like Driefonteinen in Belgium. I think Armand's one of the best blenders, and he also has an amazing quality to his lambics that he's making, and he's one of the few that actually does temperature control as well. So I think by favoring yeast production and yeast metabolism, we're able to carry the balance that we like in our clean beers over to our mixed fermentation beers, where it's just not dominated by acid, and we can really get some interesting yeast complexities in there. And we haven't had to dump too many barrels. We've dumped a few, but it's something you got to do. It's part of the process. But overall, it's been working well for us.
Awesome. That's great to hear. I mean, I think, in my very humble opinion, I think that breweries, a lot of breweries are going to have to start adapting to this change in the palate, that people are kind of demanding these funky and sour beers. And to me, I think they're phenomenal beers because they do a really good job of kind of being the oftentimes the wine of beer and pairing with really high-end food and beers that you can really bring to the table anytime. Like you were saying, a table saison. There's not much you can't do with that beer. You can drink it on its own. You can drink it with fanciest food. You can drink it with a burger. And so, someone who believes that the craft beer needs to kind of make its way into that world and make sure it stays in the culinary world as well. it's good to have those beers. But again, when you brew like IPAs like this that are just so fresh and so balanced. I mean, put this up against any wine in a spicy food challenge, and goodbye wine.
Yeah.
So.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, that's so. All right, so you guys, seemed to be really excited when I started asking questions about mixed fermentation and funky beers. Do you guys are you guys all sharing that passion, or is it something that you guys kind of struggle because you're producing really great clean beers and you're kind of thinking, I know you all said you want to grow the Brett and the Lacto and the PDO production beers, but is it like a shared passion, or is it like at Firestone, at Barrel Works, where they're fighting with each other, where the ownership doesn't really care for it, and then you got the guys down at Buellton like, no, we need this.
That's totally a shared passion. Everybody that works for us loves it, and it's extremely important for us to we kind of view ourselves as two breweries in one, to where we do all of our clean beers, and that's the majority of what we produce. But we really want both our clean beers and our mixed culture funky beers to really be on the same level. And it's really what represents, like, as brewers, it represents our like true creativity and passion, and it's what we get the most excited about. As we brewing clean beer. Takes a lot of very intense care on the process and being consistent, and but it's also very repetitive. So, you're trying to brew the same thing over and over and over again consistently, and that's a very difficult thing to do. And we take a lot of pride in our ability to do that. But when we look at these other kind of sour, funky beers, that's where all rules are out the door. We do whatever. We just come up with an idea and we try it. We get to learn from all these amazing breweries that have been doing it for hundreds of years, and learn from them. But use our own thoughts and new techniques. And every brewery is doing it differently. And we learn from we're good friends with the guys over at Chester King and learn a lot from them. So anyway. It's definitely both those types of beers are so important to us.
I would echo that. We kind of geek out on process, and I think one of the coolest things about mixed fermentation is that you don't have to use crazy, insane ingredients to get crazy, insane flavors.
Right.
So culinary beers are awesome. I think it's really cool that beer has that. Like if you're a vintner, you just use grapes and that's it. Maybe you can use fermentation technique to do things. Beer isn't limited by that, but you can really develop amazing flavors by just varying your process a little bit. Mixed fermentation has so much potential, and it's so unexplored, and just for us, it's really exciting. I think it kind of lights our imaginations on fire. We just geek out about this stuff, and we're endlessly researching and experimenting. And as brewers, it's something. We just love the experimentation part, and we're obsessed with process. I think, and I think that's why we're good at making clean beers, because we can dial in these processes. But when you can just change these little variables and end up with very different things, particularly in mixed culture, it's just so endlessly.
Yeah, I'm happy you hit on the consistency in the process part, but I think it's a problem. As we're booming in number of breweries, a lot of breweries are not focusing on that, and that's what sets breweries like yours apart, is that when people go pick up a can, they know that it's going to be that beer. And they know what it's going to be. They know that it's going to be the same thing. They know it's going to be, if not exactly to the exact decimal, but very similar to the exact same thing every time they pick that beer up. Say what you want about Budweiser, but they're the same thing every time they pick that can up, or that bottle up, and that's why they've been around for so long and so successful, I think, among other things. But so it's something that goes to why you put out 2,000 barrels. You're gonna be putting out 15, 30,000 barrels so quick. That consistency aspect, and again, as somebody who's had your beer along the process, every time I get this can, I get excited. And I think this is going to be something I enjoy. I know what it's going to taste like, and I know why I want that can. It's huge. And the same token, it's really cool to pick up a beer and go, I wonder what this batch is going to be like, or this blend is going to be like. But for an IPA, I don't want that.
Yeah, we've kind of taken that approach as well to our seasonals, where like Cosmic Debris, we're pretty happy with that not being the same every year. It's basically a totally different recipe than last year, and a lot of it was just kind of here's new hops we're excited about, new hops we want to work with, as well as here's some old tried and trues, and it's a pretty cool blend of both those things. And we brew it early in the year, which is basically right after we get all the fresh from that year. So it's with things like that where it gives us Cosmic Debris, I think the consistency is going to be in the quality and the execution, but then year to year you may see some change in flavor profiles, and we're totally okay with that, I think, as brewers, and I think drinkers are willing to take that journey with us as well, because it's, at the end of the day, that can's going to be damn delicious. It just might be a little bit different.
Yeah, and it is damn delicious. I mean, so I guess you guys are two of, I guess, your most popular probably would be this beer, right? I mean, so am I right in that, saying that?
Yeah.
It's a hop forward beer. Cosmic Debris is a hop forward beer. I mean, where are we on the experimentation with hops? I mean, are we just kind of, you guys and then the beer industry in general, are we kind of like on the cusp of at the surface of what can be done with hops? I mean, I know there's more experimentation on creating more varieties of hops. It seems like, because you can create any combination you want, that it's an endless playing field. But you guys have any opinion on that? I mean,
like genetic diversity of what the hops that can be developed, it's proven to be like one of the most versatile plants that you can get these amazingly different oil profiles out of. And I mean, we're continuing to see incredibly interesting diversity in these hops coming out. Like, then this beer, Cosmic Debris, Dave and I are drinking, like, Idaho 7 kind of like blew our mind this year. It was just such an interesting and strange varietal that has this just weird candy-like ripe papaya kind of thing that I'd never smelled anything like it in a hop before. And it's just as simple as adding it to the beer in the right way, But beyond that, like, process is something that we talk about a lot. Like, we do things like we'll centrifuge the yeast out of the beer before we add the dry hops. So there's much less absorption of the oils by the yeast cells, and they don't, so you get 100% of your oil usage, basically. There's different temperatures that you can dry hop at. There's different CO2 volumes that you can dry hop at to get just different things that come out of the hops themselves. So, no, I think it's almost endlessly interesting forever. Like, it's such a cool, I don't know, I love hoppy beer. To drink, like, as a daily thing, I think it's probably my favorite thing. Although mixed fermentation is just also like this depth of mysteriousness. I think hoppy beer can continue to be interesting for a really long time.
Yeah, and I was going to ask you, I was telling you before we went on, but I hosted that interview panel the day before Hunapoo Day. And the two questions that the crowd was asking everybody, and it was all sour beers, it was all mixed fermentation beers, for some reason they kept asking about, give me your opinion on hazy IPAs. I'm like, it has nothing to do with this. But do you guys have an opinion on hazy IPAs? I mean, the Northeast style IPA is emerging. Yours, I showed on the screen, is incredibly clear. It's still incredibly juicy and flavorful. I think you centrifuge the yeast out before you dry hop, so that's one big difference. But do you have an opinion on it either way?
I think you're able to achieve an equally juicy beer without it being hazy. It's just a matter of technique and yeast, and I'm not going to get into all the variables of what makes their beer hazy. But if I drink a Treehouse Julius and then I drink a Cosmic Debris, they're on the same level in my personal opinion on how juicy they are, and I think they're both great. So, yeah, it doesn't have to be. We get some people who look at Cosmic Debris and they're like, "Oh, it's not hazy."
Oh God.
They're like, they judge it based on that haziness because they want it to be like, Heady Topper, and some of those other beers that are just so hot right now. And what I love about Cosmic Debris, one of the things is that it's not hazy, but it's still so juicy and so good. So you're kind of like, hey guys, it doesn't have to be, super murky and hazy to be a delicious double IPA.
And
yeah, that's incredible to me.
I'll echo that as well. In some degrees, I think you have people that are people are considering hazy. There's such a large lump into that word where you've got the absolute most turbid beer possible to what I would consider actually just hazy, and that's all lumped into one big category. And unfortunately, I think there's a mix of brewers who are, I think, the ones who like made it really famous up in the Northeast and have had these beers that have this turbidity. Some of them are brewing and they're executing in an excellent way, and their quality is huge and the flavor is outstanding. And I think that there are a lot of like second-hand brewers now that are looking at that style and might not necessarily using the same techniques to get to the same finished product. And I think that shows in the quality of their beers potentially, where it's like, look, man, like that you can make a beer hazy in a lot of different ways. I even heard like rumors of home brewers were saying that like everybody at Treehouse dumps actual flour in their beer to make it hazy. And
I'm hearing that too.
And it's that's just wrong. Like we brewed a collaboration with Treehouse that's sitting in barrels right now, and it's like we're good friends with those guys. And we talk to them, and they're not dumping flour in their beer. There's other things that they're doing in the process that's generating a hazy beer. But then, so you have these guys that have found the way to make the beer they like, and it may look that way, and you have other guys that are trying to emulate that maybe, but they're key beers, and they may still like them as well, but that's not what we're doing necessarily.
Well, I gotta stop then, because I like hazy beer so much. I'm throwing flour into my pilsners and lagers at home. So
yeah, I think there's other things to play, man. There's other things.
Yeah, they actually make a product called BioHaze. So if you want just like a stable haze in your Hefeweizen that's super filtered, you can just put BioHaze in there, and people will be like, "That's hazy, man."
Yeah, and I'm gonna be like the best brewer ever doing that. I'm happy you guys. You guys are very like polished politicians here. The way you answer these questions, I like it. But yeah, I don't get it. That's why I asked you guys, because I tried the Cosmic Debris, this year's Cosmic Debris, and I'm like, this is juicy as shit, and it's clear beer. And so I'm always kind of like in the middle of this. People ask me this, and I'm like, you don't have to be hazy to be juicy. It's have you ever tried Pliny the Elder before? It used to be the Pliny versus Heady Topper fight, and it's a crystal clear beer, and yet it is as juicy as you can get a beer to be.
I worry honestly about like if I was making a super hazy beer, I just know that it's going to settle out. Like, you're going to have some of your cans that come off of the line are going to be like straight yeast. Somebody's going to dump a gloopy can into a cup somewhere and yell at me on the internet about it.
No, man, it's juicy.
I don't know.
Why are you hating, man? Why are you hating? That's juicy. All right, let's talk about this one. Athena Paradiso. So this is, and here we go, beautiful color. Look at that. But let's talk a little bit about this one. Yeah, it's pretty hazy. So I'm sure that it gets an extra like 3 points on Beer Advocate for that. So yeah, that's a really cool look. It looks even redder in the screen. It's got a nice like faint pink in person. It's like a really nice color. This, I guess the beer has cranberry, raspberry, and tart cherry. Again, what was the inspiration behind this beer? I know you guys do Athena, Berliner Weiss. Is that a year-round beer? I think.
Athena is a year-round beer.
Yeah, and then you've got this one that I guess is a seasonal or limited release beer.
Exactly.
I guess what was the inspiration behind those three ingredients? Is there any reason you chose those three. And they're a cool three, and they play together really well.
I gotta give a shout out to Rodenbach Character Rouge on that, because it's the same three fruits that are in that beer, and I love it. So that was probably the inspiration for picking those three. We've done tart cherry versions where it's just cherries, and we really just wanted to come out with something that had a little more depth, and I mean it works so well together. But Athena Paradiso, it's essentially Athena with fruit. So we do another version as well with guava and passion fruit, and that gets released like middle of the summer when it's super humid and as hot as it can be. So we do that one, and then we also do this cherry raspberry cranberry version, and pretty great, yeah.
Again, I think the word that comes to mind first, again, is balance, because I've had Athena, the standard Athena, and I think a lot of times now, again, and I keep going into a lot of times now, but oftentimes now when people add fruit into the beer, they kind of use the fruit to be the beer, which to me is that's a problem. I mean, I want to taste the base beer, and so what's nice about this beer is that I get the base beer and I get a nice layer of fruit over or under it, however you kind of approach it. But what's nice is that it's balanced, and and that's what I look for first. I know a lot of other people look for first too, but what's really great about it is that you've got the fruit and the base beer kind of showing their head. It's not just one or the other. It's not just, oh, this tastes exactly like a cherry. If I wanted that, I would go eat a cherry. So
on the other side of the coin, I drink a lot of these beers that are made with fruit, and I don't taste the fruit. And that kind of pisses me off, and I don't really understand why you would ever do that. So it goes kind of different ways, and this is definitely a more fruit-forward version of a fruited Berliner Weiss. But like you said, it is balanced, and it's beautiful because you get the Berliner Weiss character, and I think you can honestly taste every single, each of the three fruits independently in that beer, and that we played a lot with the ratios of each fruit. Piloted over and over again, and until we felt like this is the perfect amount of each fruit to where you can experience each one in the beer, and that's a big deal. So yeah, it's a pretty cool beer.
I was gonna ask you about, do you pilot these beers, and I guess on what scale are you piloting these beers now? Because
we do like 2.5 barrel pilot system. We pilot every single beer we ever put out. So yeah, that's a big deal for us. We have a kind of a pilot program that we do right now. We're piloting Automatic, which is our seasonal pale ale. It'll be coming out within the next month or two.
Cool.
Working on that, and we're always working on. We're even working on Bibo, like which is one of our year-round beers. We've got some cool ideas on different techniques, but we're not going to just change the technique on the big system. So we're just playing around with it on the palate. We do a lot of that kind of stuff.
Is there ever a time where you brew a beer on a pilot and you say, well, this is a good beer, but it's not what I wanted, and people in the tap room get a chance to try it?
I don't think we don't ever pour anything in a tap room that we're not like going to introduce to the public.
Okay.
We've dumped plenty of beer. I think the best breweries dump a lot of beer, and like we definitely dump a lot of beer, which is a good thing. I mean, we had some stuff last couple weeks. We brewed a Kolsch, and it was kind of messed up. Like it went through this like hot and cold fermentation because we were having trouble with the glycol, and it was not tasting good for a while. And we were like, oh man, we're gonna dump this out, whatever. After lagering it for like 4 or 5 weeks, it was finally good. And we poured it, but we didn't call it a Kolsch because we weren't comfortable saying that was a Kolsch. But I mean, we've dumped probably 400 barrels of beer over the course of our 2-year history. It's just things happen, and it's your reputation, so it's important.
Sure.
Yeah.
I see all of us have a beard as I look down at the screen. Is that an important thing to be a beer fan, to have a beard?
I'm too busy to shave, really. Like that's what it comes down to.
That's what it is for me too. It's so easy just to go zinc and I'm done. You guys just well, before I get into that, as we've been talking about all the beers and the kind of the concept behind your guys' beers, is there a beer that each of you guys feel that might be the identity of Creature Comfort for you? Is there, is there one specific beer, or is the political answer that we've been hearing? No, I'm just kidding. But is it really your whole, kind of portfolio, or is there a beer that kind of sticks out to you and says, this is why I'm doing what I'm doing. This is what Creature Comfort is to me.
That is a tough question. I think touching on our whole portfolio is important to kind of answer that question, because we have a wide variety of beer, because we really do care about making kind of a beer for everyone. So we have Reclaim Rye, which is a rye amber that we age on for people who like a malted beer. Athena for people who like Berliners, slightly sour. We got a Pilsner and an IPA. But for me, I would say that, again, back to we have two breweries in one. I would personally think that Tropicalia and Emergence would be the two beers that best represent what our brewery is and what we're really striving for. That's my opinion.
Personally, I would say the point of our brewery, to me, in some ways, is that there is no single beer for a person. So I wouldn't. I don't know. That's David chose two, so that's fair enough. There's too many good things out there to say one thing is what we are.
What do you think, Blake?
Yeah, Blake.
My favorite beer to reach for on a daily basis is probably Vivo, our Pilsner. And then I would say that most people identify us with Tropicalia. It's by far our #1 selling beer. But yeah, I would say our commitment to process, quality, and things like that is more identifying factor than any one beer. And that's the only thing that really runs consistently through every vein, I think. It's funny, we all kind of have personal things that we're interested in and passionate about that has kind of found us where we operate within the brewery and what we do on a regular basis. And then at the end of the day, we all have different ways of thinking, but the reason we all identify with what we're doing together is because of those things. It's because at the end of the day, we want every single bottle or can that goes out the door to be just amazing or no disappointments and consistently good. And so even if I'm working on some Brett Saison and Adam is figuring out how to hammer out 80,000 more barrels next year, and Dave's running everybody and piloting all these things, I think we're all just at the end of the day come together because of the appreciation for just having good process and technique through what we make.
Okay, so that's a really good answer to bring.
How's that for political?
Yeah, you can tell who the member of the guild is, right? With that answer. So it brings up a good question, and something I got a really interesting answer to the guys from Wicked Weed out of this. But what's the process like when you're coming up with concepts? Is everybody sitting at a table, kind of thinking about what we want to do next, or is it somebody comes up with an idea and says, "Look, I want to do an IPA that kind of features this," or I want to. Do you guys have a set process, or is it just kind of organic? And one day it could be you're at a table in a meeting and we think of a beer together, or is it another day it's, I come in and I've got to brew this, so let's brew this.
We all have kind of pet projects sometimes, man, I really want to do this, and then it's your job to kind of convince everybody else that it's important. And if you're good enough to do that, and make somebody else passionate about it, then odds are it's gonna be piloted. And we're all extremely collaborative, and we pride ourselves on that. We're not any individual is egotistical or so self-important that we won't recognize that other people can lend good insight into things that you're working on. And so I think we have pretty good communication amongst ourselves to come up with the best thing possible, and that's really the goal. It's not a selfish endeavor. Creativity I think it's more fun with friends. So like we go through these adventures. We email a lot back and forth. If like somebody wants to type like a manifesto about why they think we should do this, and we'll all like respond. Or if it comes to a person-to-person conversation, we try to stay pretty open to the creative process. And we've beyond the three of us, like we also take ideas from some of our incredible people. I mean, we've got like 13 people that work in production now. So like a lot of them are really passionate beer people, and they have incredible ideas. Sometimes they drink really good beer and they know what's good, and so we stay open to all that kind of stuff and makes it better.
Like our head cellarman, who I know is watching, so I'll shout out to Drew. He's an awesome dude, and he came up with a kind of a coffee pilsner, so we call it Cellarman's Cellarman's Pills, and it's a coffee pills, and it's great, and it's something that we pour at our tap room, and I think we would probably consider doing something more with it in the future. We've had our another one of our cellarmen come up with a really nice black IPA recipe, and we piloted it, poured it at our tap room. So yeah, we're wide open, and our big thing is just encouraging creativity and curiosity from all of our people who are all passionate, and we don't want to limit anybody. So.
Yeah, that's really cool. How many employees have you gone? How many employees did you start with, and have you gotten to today?
Probably started with what, like five?
Five. Blake moved to Athens with us before we had a job for him. He lived with David for like 8 months or something before we ever opened up. So shout out to Blake for having some commitment on that.
For sure.
We started with 5. We have I think over 20 full time now, and in our tap room like 20 to 25 part time. So really proud of it. It's incredible to have that many people, like in your life in that capacity that you see every day, and that you get to mentor on some, just hang out with some, and it's awesome. It's been a good journey.
That's awesome, and so part of that is because, part of the reason for me asking that is because it's just incredible what an impact craft beer is having, not just for people that want to, everyone says, oh, we want to drink, but it goes beyond that. I mean, it really is impacting local communities and neighborhoods, and it's 20 to 25 people being hired for a local brewery is pretty amazing, especially when you factor in that there's going to be another 2, 3, 4 down the line in the same area. You're giving a lot of people a living, and that's a really important thing.
You're getting, life skills. They're getting career training. They love what they do, which is the coolest thing about working in this industry. I mean, we have a great time every single day, and we all work really damn hard. We do a lot. Today, we bottled 15 barrels of Saison by hand. We brewed probably like 120 barrels of beer. We moved a lot of it through the cellar. I mean, it's a big undertaking. We have people running all over the place and just like working their asses off, but having a good time. And we all get to drink beer together at the end of the day, and
and we canned Tropicalia.
Yes.
Of course.
Yeah.
Blake, you being part of the guild, and we'll just touch on this very briefly, but when I hear about legislative issues or government issues with beer, it kind of strikes a chord with me because of the problems that we had in Florida. Not this last session, but the session before, where they were trying to kill tap rooms. You guys have a unique, very kind of unique way of having to serve beer in the tap room, right? And can you kind of go into what the law is right now in Georgia?
Yeah, so basically we're one of only 2 states in the entire country. It's us and Mississippi that cannot sell beer at our brewery in any form or fashion. We're allowed to have approximately 1 client or 1 customer. That is our distributor. And so it really makes it challenging to create the normal experience that people are used to having when visiting a brewery tap room, especially if you're not from Georgia. So what we can do is we can sell tours. You can come to our own little Disney World. So we have Epcot. You can serve all the beers.
There you go.
So people can come in, they can buy a tour. That's been a recent change. So I've been on the board of the Brewers Guild in Georgia for 2 years. Last year we had some legislative change where you are able to, well, prior to the change last year, we were actually required to give away free samples if someone came to our tap room. So if you walked in, we were only allowed to sell glasses. So if you came back with your glass and you said, hey, I've got an empty glass, I don't want to buy your glass, but I want to come drink beer, we were legally required to give away our beer to you. So that was our first step in making change. Was it's like, all right, we got to get that changed. So what we came to was a compromise that let us sell tours, and part of the tours would come beer, but we were no longer required to give away beer. So we could at least sell a tour. So you walk in the door, we have a tour price, and now we're shifting on being able to have these tours and working through with the DOR right now to interpret the regulations in the way we had originally intended with legislative change, that we can charge variable pricing on tours based on the alcohol you're receiving and based on souvenir tours to go. So we're in a tour, or we're in a rebuttal period right now with the DOR just issued new regulations, and so we'll have a 30-day commenting period, and then another 20 days before it really comes full circle. But basically, when it's all said and done, you should be able to walk up to our brewery and say, hey, I want to buy a tour that comes with 36 ounces of samples on site and up to 72 ounces to go, and we can say, okay, well, if you want to take these 72 ounces to go, then it's cost X, and if you want to drink this on site, it can cost X, and we can change that pricing instead of saying, like, yeah, you're here, $14, drink all this beer and take whatever you want, and it's just $14. Everything's $14.
That's just mind blowing to me. I mean, it sounds like you guys are working your way into a much better scenario, though. It sounds like there's progress being made. And the reason I'm so interested in this, for a living, as a primary job, I'm a lobbyist, so it just doesn't make any sense to me what's going on over there. But it sounds, I mean, from your perspective, and this will be one of the last couple questions, maybe the last question, but from your perspective, is it getting better in Georgia? Is there hope that somebody can come in and buy just a pint if they want to buy just a pint, or they can buy 3 pints at a pint price and then buy bottles to go at that price without having to go, for $20 you can get X, Y, and Z?
Right. I truly believe it's a matter of time at this point. We have overwhelming support within the legislation. When we did get our bill that came to the floor, finally came to the floor, I think we had 5 opposed votes in the House and 135 yays. So it's not like the majority of people are withstanding. It's a pretty simple argument. Breweries in Georgia on average make 2.5 times less per barrel of beer produced. We have the drinking population of Colorado and Oregon combined. We only have 48 breweries and brew pubs in our entire state. We're at about 45th in the nation per capita for breweries, about the same for dollars making money off the beer industry. Wow. So basically, I mean, in our minds, we lit the floodgates, and we've got 10,000 new jobs in the state, right. And that's supported by evidence all over the country. Right. And so the majority of people see that, and they recognize it, and they, this is a state that constantly says we're #1 for business, and we'll spend hundreds of $millions in imploring new companies to come in and open up businesses. Like, we don't want any money, just change the laws, and we promise we'll change the right. the job situation. And our industry alone can change the unemployment rate from 5.7% to 5.2% if you just extrapolate what's going on in Colorado and Oregon. And we're talking about 3 to 5 percentage points of unemployment rate for an entire state. It's a pretty easy change. Yeah. It's hard to argue against that. So the walls are slowly coming down, and people are realizing this is the way forward, and we'll get there eventually.
Well, awesome, man, and good luck on the work that you're doing over there, and congratulate you on the work and the success that you're having, and hopefully it continues to grow. As a business perspective, not only are you creating jobs, but, I mean, the tap room's the lifeblood of the brewery, right? I mean, you're making your biggest margin there. You're allowing the brewery to continue to grow, hire more people, as well as make more product for those people who say, I want to drink what I want to drink. And so it's a win-win for everybody. I don't get it. I just don't get it. Is there anything we can expect from you guys in the next couple years, other than more production? And we already talked about, and there's a couple other beers on the table there. What are those?
What do we got? We have the King's Ransom right here. Let's see, I'll put it on the camera. That's off.
A Baltic Porter.
It's the Baltic Porter we brewed with Other Half a little while back. Other Half out of Brooklyn. amazing. First attempt at the Baltic Porter, but like it basically like ended up sort of slightly smoky. No smoked malt in it, but it's got this rich chocolatiness. It's not an intensely like strong or boozy beer. It's just this smooth kind of chocolatey, smoky thing that we're really happy with, and we're like kicking around the idea of just like brewing it all the time because we like it that much. So.
Nice.
Some ladies are saying that it's the sexiest beer they've ever consumed.
Oh,
Yeah.
you gotta brew it then.
We need to do it more. So.
What I find interesting is I saw this beer somewhere on social media. You guys posted it, I think, or maybe the other half posted it. What I find interesting is that they're known for their hoppy beers. Your guys' number one beer is a hoppy beer, and you choose a Baltic Porter.
That was the point.
Yeah, I think it's really cool. I just wanted to make sure that was a conscious decision to say "fuck you," basically.
We don't want to be known as Tropicalia Brewing Company. Like we just don't. We brew Tropicalia. We brew a mean Tropicalia. But it's not everything for us.
I love that.
A range of things, and I think we can produce beers like this at a high level and get people excited about them. So.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah, we generally, when we do these collabs, we try to take some sort of, step into the unknown, new process, new something that we haven't necessarily done before. We've certainly never brewed a 10.2% lager before, and they were up for the challenge as well, and it's kind of a daunting undertaking as a brewer to take, so when we were talking about piloting, we pilot everything except collaborations. So it's like we'll take one stab at brewing a 10.2% Baltic Porter lager, and hopefully it's great, and we love how it came out. So
possibly the most difficult technically to brew, and you're just going for it. Let's do it.
I think that's exactly why we wanted to do it.
Awesome.
It just was like, all right, well let's put our balls on the table and see what we're made of.
Yeah. So we did a collaboration with Arizona Wilderness very recently, which is probably the riskiest collaboration we've done yet. Kettle soured, saison yeast, and then bottle conditioned with Brett. So like we were constrained on our stainless steel mixed fermentation. We're like we have to get this through the cellar without mixed fermentation. So how are we going to get a funky beer through the cellar? So kettle soured to get the acidity. Hopped with citrusy hops, Mandarina Bavaria, and
Lemon drop,
and then fermented with the saison yeast, and then added zest from lemons and oranges from Arizona, some local honey from our area, and then bottle conditioned with Brett. So that's what we've been bottling today. So kind of like a whole paragraph to describe the beer. It's a risky beer, but we're super excited about it. It's tasting great right now.
That sounds awesome. Those guys are a blast. They're
That's for damn sure.
It's funny. They told us that they thought we were nuts. We're like, oh man.
Oh, Jesus.
If you guys think we're nuts, then okay, that changes the whole perspective on things.
I went out and saw them in Phoenix, or just outside of Phoenix, right? And then, so I'm like, where are they? Where are these guys at? And all of a sudden they show up. They're like full of dirt, head to toe. Big guys with huge beards, full of dirt, head to toe. I thought it was the funniest thing.
Yeah, they're barbarians.
Yeah, I mean, check this out. I mean, this is the picture he chooses to take. So I'm like, hey man, that's a Hunapoos day.
Nice.
Awesome. So we have a positive outlook in Georgia, which is great. We have a positive outlook for your brewery, which is awesome. Any cool things up and coming the next few weeks, next month that you might want to let people know about to maybe go to the brewery, or any cool bottle releases people can go pick up?
I think this Friday night we're doing a little special tour for the King's Ransom. Next Saturday on the 16th we're doing we have our anniversary party. I think at the end of the month we're doing Curious number 6. The Curious beers are very small batch kind of pet projects of ours that are really fun, and Curious number 6 is a kind of blonde sour that was aged in wine barrels and then re-fermented on local Georgia peaches. It literally, the aroma smells like the best peach you could ever bite into, hands down. So we're happy with it. We're excited. That's going to be at the end of the month, and yeah, we've got collaboration with Jester King, and that's going to be coming out in July, which was a really cool beer. It was we wanted to kind of make a mixed fermentation pilsner. And
doesn't make any sense.
And we blended our mixed cultures, so we brewed a awesome pilsner. We actually got to drink what the pilsner tasted like on its own. It was fantastic, and then we blended our mixed cultures into it just to see what would happen there. Yeah, we also took a couple of those barrels, put it in the walk-in, and we're aging. We're souring it cold, kind of like a true lagered mixed fermentation on a local winery's grape skins. Yeah, just doing weird stuff. So.
And do you taste?
Give away the secrets, Dave. Give away the secrets.
Excited.
Do you taste any of your culture in that beer? Because every single brewer I've talked to that uses any Jester King at all in their beer, that yeast, that mixed culture is a monster. And they're like, well, this is Jester King beer that we helped create. Are you guys tasting your culture out of that thing?
Actually, yeah, it definitely is powerful.
There we go.
Jeff bought it in a 750, and we propped it up. And during fermentation, I was tasting our yeast a little bit, and I'll admit it's like a little bit tough to pick out right now. The palates. Blake, what do you think?
It strikes again.
I think I more taste the change in their culture than the straight influence from our culture, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, I'm used to what their beers taste like in general, and we've had a lot of their beers. They're all phenomenal. And then what I've noticed most is how introducing our culture has affected the flavor of theirs, because theirs is so aggressive. It's a workhorse of a mixed culture.
Yeah. Did Jeff come up with the idea to do the Pilsner? Because I know he's obsessed with that Live Oak Pilsner. That's all he talks to me about.
I think we're all obsessed with Pilsners, man. We basically sat down. They were here at the brewery, and we all stood around, and I think the majority of people had Bebo in their glass, and they're like, okay, this is what we all want to drink at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And you just kind of started talking through, similar to what we do with other collabs, talking through process and ingredients, and how can we make an element of you and an element of us all a part of this. So we wanted to blend cultures. We also used grits and wheat from a farm down from our brewery. So it's like we really try to instill the essence of each of our breweries into the collaboration in some way or another, so that it's truly a collaborative and not just some dumbed down version of what we normally do. So, yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, with that, I mean, I think we've said a lot. So, is there any parting words you guys may have? If not, we're going to say farewell, and this will be up on the website, if not tonight, tomorrow. But parting words, anybody? I mean,
thanks for having us, man. This was a blast, and we appreciate your time. And
yeah.
Thanks everybody for watching.
Yeah. It's a lot of fun. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys for being part of it.
Cheers, guys.